and my dreams. But so I've got a scenario here that ties into a lot of the themes that you're talking about today and that you talk about. It's interesting because I was not familiar with laws of attraction and with you and with all of this. I'd always really lived by those principles. I had a very traumatic childhood, had to be on my own at a young age, and I lived by these principles like, this is what I want, I'm going to go do it. So I went to a great college even though I was homeless with no money and, kind of lived like that throughout my life. The last few years, I was dealing with really severe health issues, and as I said, I've been on my own for a long time. So
we're going to let you go a little bit. There's
okay.
Lots of contradictory things coming on here.
Yeah, I'm not even getting to what the actual scenario is.
Why don't you just get to the good part?
Okay, so we'll skip ahead here.
And why? Why talk about things and activate them and put them in the way of the good things that are flowing now? For the sake of justifying. No point.
Very good point. So skipping ahead, there is a musician whose work carried me through the last 2 decades, and I always knew one day I'd meet this person, and I was pretty much terrified for that to ever happen. Tremendous amount of resistance, and in the last few years when I was going through my own medical journey, which worked out wonderfully, I went into remission, I figured out what doctor's missing, a long story that I'm skipping over.
Not so much, but all right.
Okay, so it's hard for me to boil down.
It is hard not to drag it all forward and keep it active, but some of it you want to bring forward and some of it you don't, so just be discerning about what you bring forward. When we say get to the good part, we really mean that.
Yeah. So
we do want to hear from you, and everything that's happening here is beneficial, and we're appreciating every bit of it. Just want to say some things to those who are listening in, and mostly to you. So as you stand right here and now, as you be in this manifested moment, there's only one thing for you to consider in terms of happiness, which is success. And that is, what's my now relationship with my inner being? Because my inner being walked with me through all of that, and my inner being knows what's in my vortex because of all of that. But my inner being is only, ever, always focusing upon the vortex version of it now. Your inner being never, ever looks back at those stories or situations that you're wanting to bring into the conversation here. Your inner being never looks back. Your inner being's only aware of where you are in relationship to what's in your vortex, and every thought that your inner being has and every impulse that your inner being offers is for you to feel the satisfying movement from where you are right here and now to where you're wanting to be. And while all of that added immeasurably to all of this, in other words, we're not discounting one miserable moment of anyone's life, all of that mattered a lot because it's what created the vortex, and it's what sets the contrast so that you can focus. We're not saying that you shouldn't do it, but just don't do it. Because every time you do it, you create some form of separation between you and who you are.
And haven't even got to the good part.
You weren't going to get there. You weren't going to really get there.
I started listening to your stuff, and I was really working within myself on the resistance.
Do you believe that about your vortex?
I do.
So let's have a conversation about what's in your vortex and your movement toward it. Does this make sense to you? See, a lot of people, when we say that to them, for a little while, they don't have anything to talk about because they've been practicing this for so long. And this is the story. This is the story that explains this. But you don't have to explain this. This is great. And you don't have to explain anything about this. What we're interested in is this, meaning you right here and now. This in relationship to this. That's what rings our bells. That's what we want to ring your bells too. So out of everything you lived, you did so much asking. And Source did so much answering. And it's time for you to cash in the vibrational chips. But you don't do that by regurgitating anything.
Well, that's kind of what happened. As it turned out, I was sort of working internally on what my resistance, my blockage was, and momentum started, and I was listening to a lot of your online talks, and momentum built up really quickly, and suddenly boom, 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 like this person, that person, that person. And then I just knew, I said, this means I'm going to meet this particular person, this musician who's meant everything, and I just got to let it happen, and I can't resist anymore. And the very next day, I was wandering like I do, following my bliss in the middle of a cold, freezing beach. No one's there. The sand's pouring up in my face, singing at the top of my lungs. I turn around and he's standing behind me, literally listening to me sing his own song. And I was like, trying to pretend, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna run away, I'm gonna run away. And I'm like, you cannot pretend that this person whose work has carried you through so much of all of this, who has meant so much to you, is literally standing behind you.
Let's recount the recipe that allowed that to happen. So, did you expect that person to be on the beach? No, you would have run away. You were in the receiving mode. Your inner being, all along, your inner being has always known that you want that rendezvous and has said, go over there, come over here, come over here, come over here. What you want to do is acknowledge what was going on in you that caused you on that day to follow those impulses so that your inner being could put you right where you wanted to be. See what we're talking about? Right where you wanted to be. What were you doing differently then?
That's what I'm trying to figure out, because I've never been able to recapture.
Well, here it is. Here's what you were doing differently. You weren't thinking about what wasn't happening. And you were thinking about the blissful things. In other words, the sand in your face, maybe that was helpful. Maybe that was on your mind. It was a cold day. Maybe that was helpful. Maybe that was what was on your mind. You see what we're getting at? You weren't thinking thoughts in opposition to what you wanted. In fact, you weren't thinking opposition thoughts about anything as that day was unfolding, as you were following those impulses. That's what Esther means by, oh, the magic is happening. And she knows it's not magic, but she likes the feeling of it, where she can feel that she's going there, not because she should, but because it just feels like the thing to do. And then the next thing unfolds, and the next thing unfolds, and the next thing unfolds, until she comes away from that feeling like the most blessed person in the world. And that's what we want you to come away from that rendezvous, feeling like the most blessed person in the world, who was guided right to something that you had long wanted, but for this moment in time to be important to you, for it to be important to you in the way we want it to be important to you. We want you to understand what was going on with you in that moment. What were you doing that caused you to be more allowing than you usually are? Do you realize how many opportunities you've had for exactly that? How many things that you want that are out there walking around in the sandstorm with you, and you're just not seeing them? So many opportunities are moving around, and your inner being is aware of all of them. Getting warmer, getting warmer, getting warmer. Oh, ornery again.
That's pretty much how it transpired. Yeah. I guess afterwards I was listening to your stuff, and everything made so much sense to me. Like, one of the things you talked about, because I heard someone ask a question of different nature but similar, was to not stop and just be stuck with processing. Oh my gosh, what did that mean? How did it be? Because I got stuck in that moment, and it was so blessed that I was just like, struck and I couldn't even believe it. But then after that became kind of the sadness, and became like, well, how can I top that? And I did actually end up running into him 4 more times over the course. And then I had to change my schedule, because I started feeling like I looked like a stalker, and so,
she's a vibrational stalker.
Yeah, I know. And I was like, he's not going to understand that. And I'd been like to traffic court that morning, and then to get a smoothie, and then to park, and I'd turn around and it was like all different places. And I was like, oh no, But then that made me sad too, because I thought you can't get down on it.
So wait for a little bit. So strong desire, rendezvous, which made you believe a little bit. Now your belief's in a different place than it has been before. So now it happens, and it happens, and it happens, and it happens. And why would you be sad now that you understand how it works?
Exactly. So that's what I'm upset with myself about, that I struggle.
Are you worried that there's not more in the pipeline? All through your life, you only got one thing, and it was to meet this person. That's all that was in the pipeline, and now it's done.
Well, I think it was I wanted more then.
Damn, I wish I'd lived more contrast and I'd asked for more things. Now that I know the universe can give me anything that's in there, but that's the only thing that's in there, and now it happened. And so, of course it's not like that. There are all kinds of things in the pipeline. This is the thing that we want so much for all of you to hear. So we talked to you about the power and the value of meditation, the value of meditation, which is you get into the receptive mode. And when you're in the receptive mode, then you are consciously aware of the receiving of the impulse or the thought that then led to that. In other words, we could teach you meditation and promise you these things, but until you have actually wanted something that you allowed to be, you don't really know, because it's personal, isn't it? It's all really personal. Until it happens to you, you don't really get it. But once it happens to you, and that's why we wanted this opportunity to be of value for you, so that you don't talk yourself into thinking it was just chance or luck or stick-to-itiveness or determination. No, it was the process. You ask, and source lined it up, and for whatever reason that is helpful for you to figure out, not the action that you took, but the frame of mind that you were in that allowed you to follow the course of action that led to that. If you could see an aerial view of all of you, you see, your inner being not only knows what you want, what's in your vortex, but the cooperative components have already been gathered. So the vibrational version of that artist was already in your vortex and had already vibrationally been rendezvousing with you over and over and over and over and over and over again. But you weren't allowing it to happen because it was far-fetched, or it was unbelievable, or it was too much to wish for, or because I'm not worthy enough, or because I'm not good enough at this deliberate creation thing. In other words, there's so many reasons that you use that even though you're spinning around in the sandstorm called the vortex, you're not allowing yourself to have this extraordinary experience that is right there under your nose, because you're not ready for it. And the reason you're not ready for it is because you're on some other disc than the high-flying disc. You're on the worried disc, or you're on the complaining disc, or you're on the justifying disc. You're on the